In today's video topic, our car broke down, so my stepson and I stayed at a hotel for night. Then, this unexpected happened. We weren't supposed to be on the road that late, and I definitely wasn't supposed to be alone with him when everything went sideways. But that's exactly how it all started, with one wrong turn, a dead engine, and a night neither of us would forget. It was supposed to be a quick weekend trip, just me and my stepson, Ethan. A few hours on the highway, some music, a few snacks, and we'd be at our destination before sunset. But you know how life doesn't always care about your plans? Well, that's what happened. Somewhere around dusk, just as the sky turned that burnt orange color, our car sputtered, jerked, and then died. No signal, no warning, no mercy. We were stranded on a quiet stretch of road with nothing but tall trees and miles of silence on either side. With no help in sight and the nearest town a couple of miles back, we did what anyone would do. We started walking, and after what felt like hours of dragging our feet, we finally saw it. An old roadside motel, glowing dimly in the distance like a lifeline. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. And at that point, it felt like a gift. We checked in, exhausted and unsure of what tomorrow would bring. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. From the moment we stepped inside that tiny room with its flickering lamp and creaky floorboards, something felt off. Not scary at first, just strange. There was a kind of tension in the air, like we were being watched, like the walls were holding secrets. Ethan didn't say much, but I could tell he felt it too. He kept glancing toward the window, and once or twice, he even asked if I heard something outside. I brushed it off. We were tired, probably just overthinking everything after a long day. But that wasn't it. Because later that night, just as I was drifting off to sleep, something happened that changed everything. I heard a sound. Not just a noise, something deliberate. A soft knock. 3 slow taps on our door. I thought maybe it was someone from the front desk, maybe another guest. But when I looked through the peephole, there was no one there. And then, Ethan said something that chilled me to the bone. He looked straight at me and said, "They were here before we got here." What did he mean by that? Who was they? And why did it feel like we had walked into something we couldn't see, but could definitely feel? The rest of the night was anything but quiet, and what happened next made me question everything I thought I knew about that motel, that night, and even my own stepson. Stay with me, because what happened after that knock? It was nothing like I expected. And once it started, there was no turning back. I stood frozen for a second, heart thudding in my chest. The room suddenly felt colder, the air heavier. I walked over to Ethan, who was now sitting upright on the edge of his bed, his eyes fixed on the door like he was expecting something, or someone, to come back. I tried to act calm, brushing it off like it was just our imaginations playing tricks. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. That knock wasn't an accident. It had rhythm, intention, and Ethan's words. They were here before we got here, kept repeating in my head like a warning I didn't understand. I sat next to him and asked, "What do you mean, Ethan?" He looked at me, confused but serious. "I don't know. I feel like this place isn't empty. Like we're not the only ones staying here, even though the parking lot was almost completely empty." His voice was quiet, almost a whisper, like he was afraid someone else might hear. I hadn't thought much about the motel when we checked in. It was old, run down, with peeling wallpaper and dim lights that flickered now and then. The receptionist barely looked up when we walked in. She just handed us the key, muttered something I couldn't quite catch, and went back to her tiny TV. I was too tired to care. But now, looking back, everything felt a little too off. I told Ethan to try and get some sleep, that we'd sort everything out in the morning. He nodded but didn't lay down. He just sat there, eyes still locked on the door like he was waiting for it to happen again. And it did. Another knock. This time, louder. 3 slow knocks again. I got up and looked through the peephole. Still, no one. The hallway was empty. But just as I turned away, I heard something else. a faint sound from the room next to ours, like someone dragging furniture across the floor. Or something heavier. I pressed my ear to the wall. Silence. Then a low murmur. A voice, maybe? I couldn't tell if it was real or my mind trying to fill in the blanks. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Ethan. What we heard next, and what we discovered in that motel the following morning, was only the beginning. There was a reason that place felt strange, and we were about to find out why, whether we wanted to or not. By morning, the whole place felt even stranger. The sunlight that crept through the dusty blinds didn't bring comfort. It only made the room look older, like it hadn't been touched in years. I opened the door to check the hallway, and again, it was completely still. No sounds, no staff, no guests. Just silence. Ethan hadn't said much since the second knock. He looked pale, distracted, like he hadn't just missed sleep, but something else had drained him. We decided to go to the front desk and ask about the room next to ours, the one we kept hearing noises from. But when we got there, the receptionist was gone. In her place was a note on the counter that simply said, "Back soon," in rushed handwriting. The office smelled musty, like it hadn't been opened in weeks. No phone, no bell, nothing to signal help. That's when Ethan noticed the security monitor behind the desk. It showed a split screen of grainy black and white footage. Most of the cameras showed static, but one showed movement. A hallway. Ours. And on that screen, clear as day, was our door. What made my stomach drop was what we saw next. At 2:13 a.m., right when we heard the second knock, the camera showed someone standing outside our room, but their face wasn't clear. The figure was tall, still, almost like a shadow frozen in time. They didn't move, just stood there for exactly 20 seconds, then vanished. I rewound the footage. Nothing before, nothing after. It was like they appeared and disappeared out of thin air. Ethan looked at me and said, "That's not someone from this motel." I didn't know how he knew that, but somehow I believed him, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being pulled into something much deeper than a broken-down car and a night stay. I felt the weight of something unspoken hanging over us as we left the front desk. That security footage, it changed everything. It wasn't just a strange night anymore. Someone, or something, had been outside our door, and no one at the motel seemed to care. Or worse, maybe they already knew. Ethan stayed close as we walked back to our room. The hallway, even in daylight, felt cold and narrow, like it was closing in around us. Every creak of the floorboard, every flicker of light made us jump. We passed the door of the room next to ours, the one we'd heard noises from. It was slightly open now, just enough to see that the inside was completely dark. I reached out and nudged it open with my foot. The room was empty, but it wasn't normal. The bed was flipped. The mirror was shattered. On the wall, written in what looked like faded red marker, were the words, "Do not stay." My heart skipped. Ethan grabbed my arm tight and whispered, "We need to go, now." But the moment we turned around, we heard it again. The knock. Not on our door this time, but inside the room, behind the bathroom door. 3 slow, steady taps. The exact same sound from the night before. Ethan's face went white. I took a step back. We both stared at the bathroom door, frozen. Then the doorknob started to turn, slowly. No one had touched it. It just moved. We backed away, one step at a time, toward the hallway. I didn't want to turn my back, but I also knew we couldn't stay there another second. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. Something was inside that room, and we were about to find out exactly what it wanted. We ran, not in a dramatic movie kind of way, just fast, quiet, desperate. We didn't even speak. We just knew. That doorknob turning on its own was more than we could explain or handle. We rushed back to our room, slammed the door shut, and locked every bolt, chain, and latch it had. I tried to calm Ethan down, but his eyes were wide and locked on the door like he was waiting for it to open again. I didn't know what to say anymore. None of this made sense. First the knocking, then the footage, now this. But just as I started to gather my thoughts, another strange thing happened. My phone lit up. A text. From an unknown number. It just said, "Get out before 3:17. Don't look back." I stared at it, confused, then checked the time. It was 2:41 a.m. Who sent it? How did they know where we were? I wanted to believe it was a prank, but deep down, it didn't feel like one. The message felt urgent, like someone was watching, or had been through this before. I showed Ethan the screen. He didn't even ask who it was from. He just said, "We have to go, now." We grabbed our things, though we barely had anything, and headed for the door. But as soon as I pulled it open, everything went still. The hallway was pitch black, the lights were out, the air was heavy, like it was pressing down on us. And at the far end of the hall, something was standing there, not moving, just standing. It looked human, tall, but the way it stood wasn't right. It was too still, like a shadow pretending to be a person. Ethan gripped my hand and whispered, "That's what I saw last night." We backed into the room slowly, and I shut the door again, locking it once more. And then came the second knock, this time from our window. We were on the second floor. That window didn't have a ledge, nothing to stand on, nothing outside but open air. Yet the knock came again, clearer this time. 3 slow, heavy taps. We were running out of time. And now, I didn't know what we were trying to escape from, or who was trying to help us. But I knew one thing. Something wanted us to stay. And something else was trying to warn us. I didn't wait. I grabbed Ethan's hand, flung open the door, and we sprinted down the hallway without looking back. I didn't care about the shadow at the end, the broken lights, or whatever was behind that window. I just knew we had to get out of that motel before 3:17. Whoever sent that message had known something, and I was starting to believe they were right. As we reached the stairwell, the lights above us popped, one after another, bursting in quick, blinding flashes. The air grew thick, like we were breathing through water, and then we heard it. Footsteps, not from behind us, from above. Heavy, dragging footsteps coming down the stairs fast, too fast. We ran down 2 flights in seconds and crashed through the lobby door, only to find it completely empty. The front desk, the office, everything was dark. No receptionist, no other guests. It was like the whole place had just vanished. I shoved open the glass doors and we ran into the parking lot. But our car was gone. It had been towed earlier in the day. At least that's what I thought. But now, I wasn't so sure. Everything felt like a setup, like we'd been brought here for a reason. And that's when I saw it. A figure, the same one from the hallway. Now standing by the road, still and waiting. Its face was finally visible in the headlights of an approaching truck. And it wasn't a stranger. It was the motel receptionist. But her face wasn't hers anymore. It shifted, slowly morphing into mine, then into Ethan's, then back to a blank, expressionless mask. She lifted one hand and pointed, not at us, but at the back of the motel. We turned, and behind the building, headlights flashed. It was our car. Keys already in the ignition. Doors wide open, engine running. We ran for it, jumped in, slammed the doors. And as I hit the gas, I looked into the rearview mirror one last time. The motel wasn't there anymore, just trees and an empty road. We didn't stop until we reached the next town. But here's the twist. The next morning, when I checked my phone again, the message that had warned us was gone. No number, no trace, only one new message. You left, but not alone. I sat in the diner across from Ethan, 2 mugs of untouched coffee between us. The town we'd landed in was small and quiet, nothing like the place we had just escaped. It almost felt unreal, like everything that happened at that motel was part of some strange dream. But the fear in Ethan's eyes and the message still burned into my phone screen told me it was very real. I kept asking myself the same question. What did "you left, but not alone" mean? I looked at Ethan, wondering if he felt different. He looked exhausted, but okay. Still, A part of me couldn't shake the thought that whatever we had run from hadn't really stayed behind. I tried to find the motel online. No listings, no location, not even on the maps. It was like it had never existed. I even checked the dashcam footage in our car, hoping it had picked up something, anything. But it was blank. A full hour of static during the exact window of time we were there. Nothing before, nothing after. Like someone, or something, had erased it all. Ethan eventually broke the silence. "Do you think it followed us?" His voice was quiet, unsure. I didn't know how to answer. But I remembered that figure in the hallway, the knock at the second-floor window, and that face in the dark. Whatever it was, it knew us. It had chosen that moment, that place. We left the diner and drove away, both of us watching the mirrors more than the road. But nothing strange followed. No shadow, no more knocks. Still, even now, days later, I can't sleep right. I keep checking my door before bed, triple locking it, watching my phone screen at night, waiting for another unknown message to appear. Because the truth is, we left the motel behind. But something didn't let go. If you're ever on a quiet road and your car breaks down, and you see a glowing sign for a motel that seems too empty, think twice. Because sometimes, the place you stay isn't just a stop for the night. Sometimes it remembers you. And sometimes it waits for you to come back.